What's up, guys? Nuance Bro checking in. We're here in San Francisco, California at the No War with Iran rally. Let's go talk to people, see what's going on. So why are we out here today?
I'm out here because President Trump is pursuing a illegal war to protect his own political career. It's appalling. War, I'm not going to say war is never right, but it's an absolute last resort, and he's just been chomping at the bit to find an excuse. He's clearly doing it because to distract people from impeachment and from his own corruption.
Sure, I mean, there's actually like tweets from the past where he's like, Obama wants to start a war with Iran because he wants to get reelected. But in his speeches recently, he said, we don't want a war with Iran, we actually want to reduce tensions. What do you think about the recent developments where, we killed Soleimani, they responded with rockets that killed 0 Americans, 0 Iraqis, and then now they're saying we're not going to do anything else if the U.S. doesn't attack us? It seems like things have sort of stopped right now. What do you think about that?
If things have stopped, that's great, but I don't trust Trump as far as I can throw him. He is not a trustworthy leader. He is a liar. He's been repeatedly showed to be a liar, to be one of the most dishonest presidents we've ever had. He's clearly only interested in his own self-interest, and he's unstable. He's impulsive and acts on impulse. Sorry, that's the same thing.
There was that story a few months ago when the drone flew over and shot down, and then they said they were like 10 minutes from striking Iran, and then Trump withdrew the jets or whatever. I mean, what do you think about this argument that a lot of the people who want to go to war with Iran are in his cabinet, a lot of these sort of national security advisors, especially Bolton before Trump removed him. But there's reports right now in BuzzFeed that Trump actually watched Tucker Carlson's show, and because he watched that and he got that anti-war message from Tucker Carlson, that it kind of moved him not to carry things further with Iran.
I hadn't heard that before. It certainly wouldn't surprise me. It's odd because he's such a bully, but he's also such a weather vane. He changes his mind midstream. If you look at his public comments throughout, even just over the period of a month, much less over the period of years, they're incoherent. There's no consistent policy. There's no policy really at all. He's not talking to people who understand the region, who understand the geopolitics. He lives in a bubble. He's only listening to people who more or less agree with him, and he's just changes his mind every month, every week, every day, every minute, and that's really terrifying. It's terrifying to be living in a country where your leader could just decide to nuke people or whatever just on a whim. And I think one of the things that we've found in his regime is, regardless of who's president, the president of the United States has way too much power. He should not be able to do the things that he's doing without congressional approval,
That's actually what I wanted to ask you about, because I don't know if you heard about this just a few hours ago. Nancy Pelosi, they passed a bill in the House, a non-binding resolution to basically say we want to declare the power back from the presidency of basically waging war, which is what it says in the Constitution.
It's what it says in the Constitution,
yeah,
yes.
But they gave that away back, I think, like during 2001 or 2002. The Bush
I don't remember, yeah.
Yeah, sometime then. They gave it and said, in this broader war on terror, you can, as the president, pretty much do whatever you want. So that's what I think that's like the legal justification against killing Soleimani, is they declared the IRGC a terrorist organization, and that's why they killed Soleimani. But they passed this non-binding resolution a few hours ago in the House.
Good.
What do you think about that move? Because, some people are saying non-binding resolution basically means nothing.
It's not, I wish it were binding, but it's not, it's better than nothing. The reality is that, there's a lot of problems with the Constitution as it was framed, which is why we have amendments. But one of the important aspects of the Constitution that is a good thing is that war is declared by Congress, not by the president. And Trump just acts as if the Constitution doesn't exist. He just acts as if, he's king. and he can do whatever he wants, and regardless of whether it's legal, regardless of whether it's constitutional, and that's terrifying. It's terrifying to live in this country, and it's terrifying to live anywhere in the world because the United States is so powerful.
So outside of this like war context, because obviously the power to declare war is with Congress, but let's say there is the justification, for example, for killing Soleimani by the Trump administration was he was about to plan an attack, an imminent threat, about to, I mean, if something like that was happening, we don't know if that's true, we haven't been presented the evidence, but if something like that is happening, do you think the president has to wait for Congress to get a session together if there's like maybe missiles flying in the air and he has to respond somehow?
I'm not enough of a I'm not going to say, let me start that again. I'm not enough of a geopolitician to be able to really give a good, thoughtful answer to that question. What I can say is that I don't trust Trump. That's part of the problem here, is that he has demonstrated himself to not be trustworthy. He's demonstrated himself to be, he got elected by violating laws. He got elected by, interfering with voters and by,
interfering with voters.
Yeah, there was a ton of voter obstruction in the 2016 election. I mean, it's been happening for a while in the United States.
At the state level, it wasn't Trump specifically, right?
Well, it was the Republican Party, in collaboration with Trump. The Republican Party has been doing voter obstruction for years now. And it's a serious problem. That's illegal. He colluded with Russia to interfere with the election. That's illegal.
In the Mueller report, it went against that.
No,
notion.
it didn't. It said that certainly his campaign did. It did. The Mueller report, if I recall correctly, didn't exonerate him. It said we can't absolutely prove that he did it.
They said, I believe they said they exonerated him on the charge of like conspiring with the Russian government, but not on the. They kind of stayed silent on the obstruction issue, which was the main issue.
Right, the obstruction issue, but also he, it's not like it's. Sorry, I'm not. No, it's. I hope you'll edit this part out because it's hard to think on the fly. He has shown himself to be utterly unreliable, and utterly he disregards the law just flagrantly, repeatedly, and I don't trust him to make these decisions, and the question of. And I think part of the problem is, okay, so he says there's an imminent threat. I don't know whether that's true because he's not trustworthy. If it was a president that I trusted, if it was a president who I knew listened to advisors, paid attention to experts, I could have some level of trust.
Well, even then, I personally would.
And even then, I don't. I think the president has way too much power, but. So part of the problem is that the president has too much power, and part of the problem is Trump himself. And it's sometimes hard to separate those out. But yeah, assuming we get him out of office in 2020, I think this country needs to take a really hard look at how much power the president has. It's really terrifying to realize how much presidents before Trump were
expanding executive power.
Well, we're expanding executive power, but also we're restrained only by their own restraint. They could have done this and didn't, and the only thing that held them back was
they set a lot of the precedent for what
they did say.
Trump's
yes, this
doing
is true.
Now.
This is true. Yeah, the presidential powers have been gradually expanding, and that's really terrifying. And I think we're seeing the results of that.
So some of the same people who have been saying, oh no, we're not considering that, have been charged by Congress specifically with studying that. And unfortunately, Representative Pelosi is one of those who has wrongly and in total contravention of the attitudes of her constituents been arguing for expanding draft registration to women and a bogus idea that if women fight, they'll earn some sort of citizenship.
So why are we out here today?
We're out here to protest the possibility of war with Iran, illegal war with Iran.
Sure. And what do you think about the recent developments around that? Because it seems like things have kind of settled down compared to where they were when this rally was announced.
It does seem like Iran has provided some sort of off-ramp for the recent escalation of tensions. I agree with that, but you never know what's going to happen with our crazy government. So we're out here to make sure that our voices are heard.
Sure. And what do you think, like, why do you feel like they launched the rockets, but I think it was even announced today that one of the Iranian generals said that they purposefully did it not to kill Americans, whereas before they were reporting on their media, 80 Americans killed, we got them, good. What do you think's going on there?
I mean, speculation. Who knows what's going on in that whole fog of what's happening? But I expect that it's really a face-saving measure. They could say they launched rockets. They say they launched a retaliation as a face-saving measure, so that they could back off and not escalate the situation.
Save face with their people.
Save face with their people. Claim, a fantastic revenge against our stupid president.
So a lot of what kind of sparked this off was basically there was this rocket attack from proxy forces in Iraq killed an American contractor, a few Iraqis. America responded, killed some people. Then they went to the embassy, stormed it, and all that stuff. And then we killed.
And then an assassination.
Yeah, we killed Soleimani. Yeah. So the justification behind the Soleimani thing was they said, it wasn't even like a revenge thing. It's like they were planning a imminent threat attack on the U.S., and we had to do it to stop them. What do you think about that justification?
Well, I haven't seen any evidence that there was an imminent attack of any kind. No one from the government has said, here is the evidence. I don't think Congress has come forward and said, we've been briefed that there actually was evidence. I mean, there was a sort of ridiculous briefing.
Didn't they say like Wednesday they were going to show Congress? I don't know if that's happened yet or not.
There was a briefing, I think. That's the one in which Mike Lee, the Republican senator, and Rand Paul.
They're both pretty anti-war, yeah.
Well, Paul is a libertarian, but they had said that was a ridiculous briefing. So my sense of what happened there was that there wasn't really any justification of an imminent threat.
I've heard some of these reports
so I don't know.
Yeah, some sources have said it's like razor-thin evidence for all that stuff. So
I sure haven't seen it.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard recently, but I think a few hours ago, Nancy Pelosi and the House, they passed a non-binding resolution to say, look, you have to basically get congressional approval before you carry out any more, aggressive actions towards Iran. What do you think about that?
I hadn't heard that from here, but I hadn't heard it. I hadn't read about it yet. But
yeah, sure. What do you think about that?
What do I think it's a good idea?
Because it's a non-binding resolution. People are wondering, like, why
it's not enough. Yeah. If it's a non-binding resolution saying that you have to go to Congress to declare war, that's better than nothing.
Sure. But then he doesn't have to because it's non-binding, right? It's really weird. I don't know why they would do that.
It sounds like it's a bit of a weak gesture. We want to see more. We want to see Congress, reclaim its war-making powers under the Constitution, and not cede them to this president, or previous presidents. That has been happening for the last, 80 years or so.
So, given what's happened with everything and how it's kind of settled out right now, I mean, Soleimani is credited for killing apparently hundreds of Americans in Iraq and things like that. Supporting proxy forces that have carried out terrorist attacks in other countries, and even some would say historically our troops in places like Lebanon or whatever. Yeah. Do you think it was a good thing ultimately that he's dead now?
I don't think it's a good thing he's dead, because it's illegal to assassinate members of governments, even if they're our enemies, right?
The legal justification they're saying is because of this broader war on terror, and because they declared the IRGC as a terrorist organization, therefore it's lawful or whatever.
Yeah, I don't accept that it's lawful or that it was a good thing to do. I mean, if you fell over dead, from a heart attack, maybe that would be, one tiny step forward, but it's a system problem. So when Soleimani's gone, there'll be another Soleimani. It's not about that particular man. It's about how the system is structured. So killing him is, I think, not a good idea.
I like what you're saying, though.
What's that?
You have some good arguments.
Like, I wasn't even making arguments.
No, not arguments, but like motivation. I like the way that you were approaching it, because there are two sides to it. Like, I'm a military person myself, so like, how many presidents has it been that have been trying to get rid of this one general? I'm not saying it's a good thing that he's dead. I don't approve of that, but
well, maybe good that he's dead, but maybe not good that we took action.
Exactly. Maybe the action was done wrong. You know what I mean? But like, I really don't want war with Iran. I don't want any more war. Like, I don't want my brothers and sisters to go fight a war for not really peace, because that's not what it's about. But
what is it about?
Man,
what interests do you feel like are pushing this war?
this ongoing war of I don't know how many years back to Desert Storm that's just never stopped. I mean, the United States, we live off of a war. Like, if you think about it, we've always been at war because that's how we make money. You know, we have this large military, you have to pay for it somehow. Where does
You're saying we make money by going to war to pay for the military?
Well, of course we make money from it.
How so? I know the contractors do, but how does the government makes money off of it?
Of course. I mean, you get your assets. We have land that we take. We have oil. Like, all of that stuff does take account.
I mean, our national debt has skyrocketed.
Oh, yeah. It's
Deficits of it, so it looks like it does cost us. Like the cost for the Iraq and Afghanistan war, I think, has been like $7 trillion.
You're right, because the war, it was completely a terrible plan from the get-go that would have never worked from the start. But the United States, I'm just saying, can't function without a war. It's inevitable, especially when you have people in the White House and Congress that are just doing the same old thing. Like, we need fresh people, like new thinkers that are willing to try something different. You know, like, we're never gonna get anywhere like doing the same thing over and over and over again. Like,
I agree. I think we should stop this endless cycle for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's not working. Obviously, if you have people standing in the streets protesting against your government, then that's the beginnings of a revolution. You know, like.
Probably need a bigger size than this. This
Still,
project.
you know, like, our government's not working. There's something wrong. They're too old.
They are too old. That's
Congress
definitely
has been
true.
in Congress for way too long. Ever since I was born, they're still the same guys. You know, like, they leave by dying.
Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Mitch McConnell. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, you're worried that your president's gonna die in his term. That's not a good thing. You know, Obama was good. He had a young influence. He did some good things. He did some other things. But overall, I think he was better than what Trump's been doing. I mean, I don't know, man.
By the way, guys, if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell for future videos. So why are we out here today?
Out here to express my opposition to war.
Sure. And do you feel like we're going towards war right now with Iran?
Yes, I think we are.
And why do you feel that way?
Because of the president engaging in foolishness. Basically, his own self-interest is what's propelling him.
Sure.
And not intelligent policy.
Sure. Which foolishness? Like what recent actions?
The assassination.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because Iran responded with rockets. It didn't kill any Americans or Iraqis, and they said if America doesn't, respond militarily from that, we're just going to stop it there. And it seems so far that Trump hasn't responded militarily, and he's not going to. So it feels like things have kind of stopped right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, with someone as impetuous as Trump, I just don't trust it. I think that he has no policy that makes any sense, and he acts petulantly and without using the counsel of Congress or people that know better than he does.
Sure. Do you feel like he actually wants to go to war? Because historically he's been sort of like anti-war for a long time.
Well, I think he doesn't know what he wants. I think he acts in the moment of what he perceives to be in his political and personal self-interest. So I think he has there's really no rhyme or reason to what he does.
Sure. The reports seem to be that it's a lot of people, like a lot of his national security advisors, who are kind of pushing Pompeo and Bolton's replacement, who are saying, pushing this war with Iran. Whereas, BuzzFeed recently reported that he was watching Tucker Carlson's show, who's been very anti-war, and that actually kind of like changed his mind on these sort of things. What do you think about that?
Well, like I said, I don't think he has a coherent strategy about anything and is very impetuous and acts in the moment, but fundamentally what is true about him is that he acts in his own individual self-interest and not the interests of the country or the world, for that matter.
And the justification, some of the reports around Soleimani is a lot of his top people, his generals or whatever, presented him a list of options, and he picked the most extreme one.
Right.
And they're saying that this was justified because there was going to be an imminent attack. There wouldn't even be time to consult Congress about something like this, and it would have cost American lives if we didn't respond.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, even Republicans are saying we're outraged at the level of evidence provided. So, it was just made up, basically.
And I don't know if you heard recently, just a few hours ago, Nancy Pelosi announced, well, they actually passed out of the House, so you know what I'm talking about, is the non-binding resolution to basically say, look, you got to consult us before you do anything else with respect to Iran.
Yeah.
Non-binding resolution, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a step in the right direction of them trying, continuing to try to hold them accountable. But what's most outrageous to me is that any person on the street, if you really speak with them, understands that it's fundamentally about relationship, and decades and decades and decades of human endeavor have been engaged in diplomacy, and that relationship and trust and working for the common good is what the world needs, and spending trillions of dollars on military advancement preparation that could be used to fix our streets, educate our children, give health care to the whole world. It's just insane. It's just insane. And so that's why I'm here, is that war doesn't make any sense. It never has made any sense at this point in the history of the world. We don't need it. It's just completely unnecessary. So anything I can do to a small way to engage with other people to protest it, that's why I'm here.
And with respect to diplomacy, because you're advocating diplomacy instead of war and all these things, some people would say, well, how do we even talk to a country like Iran who engages in proxy wars against the United States and even a lot of our allies? And they say things like death to America, we're going to wipe Israel off the map. These are the claims people make. And they're saying, it's unacceptable if Iran gets a nuclear weapon because, if they nuke Israel once or twice, Israel's basically gone forever. What are your thoughts about arguments like that?
I guess I believe that people are good. People want to cooperate, and people.
You think the mullahs who are engaging in proxy wars want to cooperate, or?
Well, fundamentally, the nature of human beings is that we're good, and so if you just
there are bad people.
I think people do bad things. I don't think they're bad people.
Hitler's not a bad guy.
He did bad things,
but he wasn't a bad guy.
Well, I believe in the. I guess that's why we are
maybe
where we are.
Maybe we're all born good, but people can become bad.
Well, you have to appeal to the fundamental good nature in people, and with the complexity of society, you can just pile on rationalization, grievance after grievance, and it doesn't lead us in the right direction. It doesn't lead us to decency, humanity, and caring for the common good. And so I have to think that we have to keep reaching for the goodness in people every day, every minute, and every relationship. And I think that's what will turn things around, So that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So why are we out here today?
Well, because I don't believe in war. I believe that we have a lot of wars on this planet, and it's time we ended the wars and took care of the planet. Most of the time we're in the Middle East for oil. So the people that are in power are blocking all attempts at changing the dependency on oil, so that and it just makes the planet die, and it makes people die because we're fighting useless wars for something we may not need.
So you feel like these wars are for oil, even though, especially recently, the U.S. has kind of, lowered its dependence on foreign oil through things like fracking and natural gas. I don't want to get too into that, but it doesn't really seem like we're fighting these wars for oil. Do you feel like
why are we in the Middle East?
Well, if you're asking,
because we don't like brown people?
No, I would say that Israel is a very powerful lobby in the United States, and they kind of push us to do their bidding. That's what I would say.
Protect them?
Well, that's my contention.
It's kind of a large. That's kind of a weird reason to have an entire, numerous wars.
I agree it's a weird reason, but I mean, if that's the real reason, that's what I would say. I don't want to get too into that.
No, well, I believe that it's...
Some people say military-industrial complex as well. Yeah.
Well, it's never going to end unless you put an end to it. It's always going to be expanding. We haven't had a peace president forever, since McGovern. I mean, he ran for office and he was defeated.
McGovern. Oh yeah, so he wasn't president. I thought you meant
No. So there have been people that ran on peace platform, and
Well, Bush ran on a peace platform.
boy, what a pile of bullshit that was.
So, do you feel like we're actually going towards a war with Iran, given all the recent developments?
Yeah.
Because it seems like things have kind of died down. Actually, like
Well, in one day.
Well, couple days, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like it because we obviously killed
No, we hope
Soleimani.
so.
Yeah, so we killed Soleimani. They responded with rockets that didn't kill any Americans or Iraqis, and they said,
Yeah, but remember
"This is the end of."
who the president is.
Well, he said he doesn't want to ratchet up anything anymore.
He
Right?
only killed somebody who he knew that would be, a provocation. I mean, that, he basically starts it.
But it seems like it kind of turned out for the best so far.
Well, Iran had a measured response. So hats off, I'm sorry to say, hats off to Iran for having a measured response. But I don't think our president will ever have a measured response.
But what's the evidence that we're going to go really towards a war, given that things have kind of died off so
If
far?
anything, well, that's only one country. I mean, we committed that crime by killing that person, and I do believe, regardless of how horrible he was, bombing that country, bombing Iraq to kill an Iranian was, involving two different countries. So you got a measured response from Iran, but what is the response going to be from Iraq?
Well, they already passed a resolution to say we want all troops out of Iraq now.
Yeah.
And then there was like this weird thing.
Yeah. It's like a lot of hot air, but the military-industrial complex marches on. We're spending more and more and more money every single year all over the world for war and munitions. And I just don't see the resolution. Like, what is the end result? When is it going to end? And what will we have at the end? Just rubble.
So why are we out here today?
Well, I think, like most people, I'm out here because we don't want another war, and it looked like, war is always imminent in with this country, and there are already ongoing wars. So, it's not just about Donald Trump threatening war with Iran, but it's about all of the presidents, no matter what party they've been in, starting and continuing wars.
Sure. And do you feel like we're going towards a war with Iran right now? Because it seems like things have kind of died off a little bit.
Well, like I said, they ebb and flow in terms of individual countries and individual treaties or individual negotiations. But we have a war economy. We have corporations that profit from war. We have politicians that all depend on war, even the ones that don't seem like it. Like, it seems like the Democrats are opposed to the war, but I think they just were angry that they didn't get in on the party. They didn't get to declare war in
Well, they're
Congress.
actually angry about a lot of more of the anti-war stuff that Trump has done, like pulling out of Syria. They're like up in arms against that.
That's right, exactly. So, I mean, the overall trend is to keep on having imperialist wars. It's just a matter of politics in terms of which politician is fighting which politician.
Sure, but historically, Trump has actually been pretty anti-war with a lot of his statements, even going back towards the Bush administration earlier and then all the way through since. Do you feel like he's the one who's trying to push for war with Iran? A lot of people are saying it's his advisors trying to push him towards a war with Iran, but that he's actually been the one who's kind of like pulling them back. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think you can look at Trump as being a human being. Trump is just a tool. Right?
We don't want to dehumanize people
No,
here.
I don't know. He dehumanizes everybody else. Why not?
Oh, man.
So, I mean,
Disavow.
Trump is a tool. Trump was the Republicans' last hope, and he's doing what he's supposed to do. So he's a showman. So you can't really take literally anything that he says at all.
Okay. But I mean, just saying, like, he's actively supported anti-war stances in the past. It seems like when people, he's pulling out of Syria, talking about pulling out of Afghanistan, even Iraq to some extent.
Right, and negotiating with North Korea and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's all a show. It's not. It's
You
not
think in his
real.
heart he wants to go to war with Iran?
Does he have a heart? I mean, no, seriously. I think that the future of humanity is in our ability to work together and view ourselves as a society. And I don't think that's what Trump is about. Trump is about Trump. And whatever works, whatever statement he can make to get attention is what he says. Like I said, a certain branch of the ruling class is using him as a tool to get what they need, whether it's tax breaks or more money for their corporations or whatever policy they need to pursue. But he's not a real person because he's not connected to society. He's not connected in a good way to society, let's put it that way.
And what do you think about Nancy Pelosi's recent non-binding resolution that she just passed?
Well, you know, I'm not, let's put it this way. I'm in the Peace and Freedom Party. I'm for working towards socialism and having politicians who speak for the people. I don't think Nancy Pelosi's really speaking for the people anymore. So anything that...
Why do they keep re-electing her here in San Francisco?
That's a good question. I mean, I worked on Cindy Sheehan's campaign when she ran against Pelosi in 2008. And Cindy Sheehan came in second at that time. So I think that there's a very real possibility of an alternative candidate who can really capture the imagination of the people and can really put forward a whole different policy, not just more of the same thing, not just tweaking things. Actually has a possibility, and that's what I work for in my political work.
So why are we out here today?
I am strongly opposed to war with Iran, and I think it's very important that people speak up and tell the administration that the people do not want that.
And do you feel like we're on the path towards war with Iran, given the recent developments?
I certainly hope not. I am worried that it's more likely today than it was the day before that, and I'm worried that it's getting more and more likely, so I want the people to push against and push back against that.
I mean, today, because recently it seems like things have kind of ratcheted down compared to a few days ago. A few days ago it seems like, we might have gone to war, but they struck us, didn't kill any Americans or Iraqis. Trump said he's not going to strike back. Iran said, if you don't strike back, we're not going to do anything further. So it seems like things have kind of died down.
I think there's been a de-escalation. I'm glad for that, but I still think we're in a very dangerous place, and I think it's important for people to speak up against it and to show that they're against any more escalations.
And what do you feel like about the justification for killing Soleimani? They said he was posing an imminent threat, that he was about to plan an attack that was going to kill many Americans, and they're like, we had no choice but to respond right away and take out that threat.
I mean, I certainly am not privy to the kind of intelligence that the president or the military is. The reports seem to suggest that that was not true, and frankly, even if it is true, I think we have to weigh the cost and lives of another war. Even if that war doesn't happen, if it becomes more likely, if the region becomes more dangerous, then that cost could be higher than whatever mischief that Soleimani got up to. So I don't think the trade-offs there were at all worth it.
And I noticed the drone sign. Are you, like, in principle opposed to drones, or you're just opposed to the way they're used?
I think that drones inherently make war more risky because they enable our generals to carry out attacks without risking the lives of their pilots, so they do riskier things and attack more targets that they otherwise might not if they had to risk their own pilots.
Sure, but you don't think they should be banned, or you think they should? Or?
I would prefer if they were banned, but...
Other countries would obviously continue using the technology, and we'd be at a disadvantage, and we would be risking lives needlessly, right?
I mean, America is by far the leader in drone technology. I'm not even aware of other countries that have their own militarized drones.
Iran does, because they captured our drone. Remember that time where our drone went into their airspace? They have a lot of drones.
Global Hawk.
What's that?
It was an RQ-9 Global Hawk, but I wasn't aware that they had militarized, like, missile launching drones of the style that we have. But even so, I think that they're a weapon that raises the risk of war, and I don't like that.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No war with Iran.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Social media links are in the description box below, as well as merch. Support us at nuancebro.com/join, and I'll see you next time. Bro.